I've seen a lot of men almost completely ruin their life simply because they're too scared to stand alone. I'm going to share a story with you guys about when I was incarcerated over 20 years ago and something that I experienced. And it just is eye-opening, something that still sticks with me this day because it's a lot of men that find themselves caught up in certain situations simply because they just don't have, the courage to stand on their own. Now, I was incarcerated. I did time in Brooklyn at MDC, which is a federal maximum detention center, right? And so what happened was that I remember when I first got there, like my first day, like I'm Dominican, my background is Dominican. So my first day there, as soon as people realized, oh, you Dominican, like the Dominicans, they showed me love. Like they gave me, you come in with just one set of clothes and you're already thinking like, bro, like how am I gonna, get another shirt? Like when am I gonna have my commissary, right? So the first day I come in, like the Dominicans showed me love. They gave me an extra shirt, extra clothes, deodorant, like basic necessities that they knew that I needed. Like, hello, we're all locked up, right? And they knew that it's day one. I still don't have commissary. I'm just walking in with the skin on my back. And I was so appreciative. I was so thankful because I didn't yet understand the prison culture. This was my first time, really being incarcerated, right? I had spent a night in central bookings, but not really being incarcerated. So the whole thing was a culture shock to me. And so I remember that they're showing me love and all of this. And I was like, man, this is really cool. Now, I did not understand how tribalistic prison is. I didn't understand how primitive it was. Like you see it on TV, right? You see the TV, you see where like everyone sticks to their race, you have gangs, I watched Law and Order, I've watched Shawshank Redemption, I've watched all these movies, right? And you see like the Aryans hang together and the Mexicans, and all of these different things. But I had never experienced it, right? So what I didn't realize that it was kind of like a recruitment, if you will. But anyway, during my time there, most everybody stuck to their race. Now that's never who I've been as a person. I grew up in New York City. I have Irish friends, Italian friends, Puerto Rican friends, Black friends, Guyanese friends, Nigerian friends, Brazilian friends, and on and on and on. Like I grew up around all types of people and all types of cultures. I've never hung out with people specifically because they were Dominican, unless that was, all that it was around. And so, the next day, like I was gonna hang out with them because they showed me love. And at this point, this is the only people that I know. But these dudes spend all day just watching telenovelas on TV. Bro, I don't watch telenovelas. That's not my life. And just because I'm incarcerated doing time, I'm not all of a sudden gonna start watching Betty La Fea. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not what I do. And so I started hanging out with different people. I hung out with the Dominicans. I played dominoes with the Dominicans. Like we chopped it up, we talked. I played spades and dirty hearts and basketball with the blacks and Puerto Ricans. I played soccer with the Mexicans and Ecuadorians. I played, Chinese checkers with the Chinese guys. I played Scrabble with the white people. You get it, right? Different people, different strokes, different folks. And so I kind of hung out with everybody, right? And it really wasn't a problem necessarily per se. I didn't understand, how clicky things were, and different things started happening that started to really open my eyes. Like, for example, we had these four phones in the unit, right? There was four different phones. I didn't realize that these phones were controlled by different races, right? And so I remember that there would be one phone that was almost never being used, right? And that was the Puerto Rican phone. I didn't know that, right? But there was so few Puerto Ricans in our unit that that phone was always empty. And meanwhile, the Dominican phone had a long line of people. The black phone had a long line of people. The Italian phone had a long line of people using the phone. So I remember one time I was like, yo, is it me? Are these guys stupid? Like, I'm gonna go use that phone. And so I grabbed the phone and I had a boy who was Puerto Rican that I hung out with, and he comes up to me and he goes, "Yo, like, you're on the phone," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm calling my kids." He goes, "No, no, you don't understand what I'm saying. You're on the phone," and I was like, "Yeah, bro, I know. I'm just calling my kids." He goes, "Nah, you don't understand what I'm saying. This is the Puerto Rican phone." And I thought he was joking with me, and then I look around and everyone's looking at me suspect, right? So if it wasn't because I had this boy, like the Puerto Ricans would have had a different conversation with me, right? But he was like, yo, let me go holler at him. That's my man. And so I realized the Dominicans are all lined up using their phone. The blacks, Italians, everyone's on the line using their phone. And then I was like, oh, okay, cool. I get it. I was like, listen, I got to go. I hung up. I get it. I started to understand the culture, right? Cool. I have no problem with it. I'll make my line for the Dominican phone. I'll wait patiently. I'm not here to ruffle any feathers. I'm not here to change the culture. I'm just here to do my time. But then one time something happened. And this is the part that you got to get, right? One time, right, it was a federal detention center. So when you're locked up in the feds, I've never been in the state. I don't know how it works in the state, but when you're locked up in the feds, every day I think like at 4 or 4:30, there's this national head count where all the prisons, all the detention centers, all the federal incarceration facilities, they count all the prisoners. It happens a couple of times a day, but they would do this every day around 4:30. I can't remember. I'm proud of the fact that I've forgotten. It's been that long. But and they would do this because people escape. So it's almost like taking roll call every single day, 3 times a day, just to make sure that no one has escaped. So what happens? One day, as we're about to go into our cells for the lockdown, so they can count everybody, which means that they're just gonna come around, they're gonna count, and once the numbers stack up, they open the cells again. Everybody goes about their day until the end of the evening when it's locked down again. And so as I'm going to my cell, one of my Dominican boys comes up to me and he goes, yo, Jose, after count, us, the Dominicans, we're fighting all the blacks. And I'm like, what? Like, what's going on? And he's like, no, don't worry about it. Just be ready. I'm like, wait, slow down, dude. Like, what's going on? Like, I don't take orders from you. What's going on? And so he proceeds to explain to me now, when you're locked up, you can't fight. You get in trouble for that. They'll put you in isolation, whatever, right? So you can't fight. So when people had beef, right, the way that they would handle it was that, the two guys that had beef would go into a cell, right, and they would duke it out. And essentially, whoever came out first, that was the winner, that was the winner. So apparently, this one Dominican guy fought this black guy. Mind you, I know both of these guys. I played dominoes with you, I played basketball with you. And apparently, the story is that the Dominican guy is claiming that he slipped and fell, and that the black guy didn't give him a chance to get up and he just pounced on him. And so, first of all, in my mind, I'm thinking, listen, bro, it's a fight. Like, what do you think? This is boxing or MMA? Like, there's a referee. Like you got to get an 8 count. Like, bro, you fighting in prison. Like, as far as I'm concerned, is no holds barred, right? But anyway, the point is that the Dominican got his butt whooped, right? And so now, because the Dominican got his butt whooped in a one-on-one fight that nobody saw, we're just taking his side of the story of what happened. And mind you, he didn't say that the guy used a weapon. He didn't say that the guy did anything dirty. All he said was that he slipped and fell, and the guy pounced on him. Right? He didn't give him a chance to stand up, like it's a commission fight by the WBC. And so I tell the guy, wait, hold up, let me get this right. You're telling me, because as I already explained, prison culture was new to me. You're telling me that because this dude got his butt whipped by this dude, now all the Dominicans, we're gonna fight all the blacks? And he was like, yeah. I was like, I'm gonna sit this one out, right? Because I got people on both sides of the fence, and bro, it's not my beef. I don't have a pony in the race. And this is what the guy says. He looks at me like serious, deadpan, and he was like, bro, you realize if you ever have problems in here, you're going to be on your own. And I looked at him, bro, as serious as cancer. I was completely unmoved. And I just looked at him and I said, listen, I walked in through those doors by myself. I'm going to walk out those doors by myself. Now, I ain't no tough guy. Okay. And if I would have gotten a problem and I had to take on all the blacks by myself, I would have had an issue, right? No doubt. So I'm not trying to tell you that I'm a tough guy. In fact, it was a little frightening. Okay. Seeing the things that I was seeing, I was in a maximum detention center. Like my sentence was 2 years, 24 months, but I was there with guys that were doing 40 to life. Right. And so it was a very volatile environment. Okay. But here's the thing. It's like, bro, I got 24 months of my sentence. Like at that time, one of my daughters was 6, the other one was 1 going on 2. And this is what I have in my mind. Like I'm trying to get home to my daughters, bro. Like I'm hoping I get boot camp so I could be home by Christmas. And you think that I'm about to risk all of that? You think I'm about to risk getting back to society, getting back to my family, getting out of this, what animal cell? You think I'm gonna risk that because one dude got his ass whooped by one dude? You're bugging. And then the crazy thing is that I can tell in his face, I can tell in that moment when I said that to him, like you can just feel the color just come completely out of his skin. And I can tell in that moment, he didn't want to fight. He knows, like everything I was saying made total sense. This is not our beef. First of all, these dudes voluntarily went into a cell to one-on-one to scrap over what I still don't know. The question is, how's that my problem? And how's that all the Dominicans' problems? I've seen this so many times. It doesn't matter if it's in prison. It doesn't matter if it's in the corporate world. It doesn't matter if it's in the club. It doesn't matter if it's in the park playing football. It doesn't matter if it's on your block. It doesn't matter if it's on the train station. I've seen so many men get jammed up and potentially, and in many cases, actually ruining their life, being stripped from society, being stripped away from their family. And if they're lucky, it's incarceration. I know people that have died, people that have been killed over nonsense that had nothing to do with them. My mom used to always say, mejor solo que mal acompañado, which in English for my passport bros basically means bad company corrupts good character. Okay, so you don't have to be a tough guy. Okay, you don't have to be a badass. But I'm telling you, as a man in life, if you are not prepared to stand on your own for what you believe in, you will fall for anything. So I don't know who this message is for. I hope it bless you. If you know someone that needs to hear these words, that needs to shift their mindset, that needs to understand that in life as men, there's risks, there's danger, but you must be willing to stand for principles. I encourage you to share this with them. God bless you. Remember, God loves you. He has a purpose for your life. Peace.